Welcome aspiring website builders and creative enthusiasts to Mastering Elementor, the ultimate comprehensive tutorial series. This series is basically aimed to make you learn Elementor from the very basics so that you can start creating websites, web pages and landing pages without writing a single line of code. So in the tutorial video, we got to know that how you can use the heading and the text editor element in the Elementor. In this particular tutorial video, we'll be covering some of the next widgets in line when it comes to basic widgets in the Elementor section, right? So let's get started with the button widget. So in order to use it, I'll just click on it, drag and drop in the necessary place where I want it to be on the web page. So it's so easy to add a button, right? Just like we discussed in the previous video, we have three sections to every element: the content, style and advanced. In the content, we change the content of that particular widget. So for button, we can change the type of the button, whether it's a default button, info button, a success button which comes up after you successfully did a thing, a warning button or a danger button. So let's go with a default button right now. Then you can change the text of the button. Let's say I want to set the text of the button as register now. I can easily do that by changing the text from here. Then let's say I want that when someone clicks on this button, he's redirected to a link. I can add that link here in the link section. Let's keep it to www.google.com. Then click to load a pop-up. Let's say if I want my button, when I click a button, a pop-up opens up. I can select that pop-up from here. I don't want that right now. Then I can again set the alignment of the button. Right now it's a left aligned button. I can either make it center aligned and it will be centered to this particular column. Then I can make it right aligned, or I can justify it so it will stretch throughout the width of this particular column, right? Then I can also change the size of the button. Currently it's small. Let's say I want to make it a medium size button. I can do that by selecting it. Then if I want to add an icon to my button, I can also do that. Right now there is no icon selected. Let's say I want to add an icon. I'll click on the icon library option, and let's say we choose this bell. We click on it, we click on insert, and you see the bell icon is now inserted in the button. Then I can also change the icon positioning. If I want to have it before the text or after the text, I can customize it. Then I can set the space between the text and the button. I can also do that from here. I can add a button ID if I want to. Then comes the styling part. So styling, as the name suggests, and as we have discussed so many times right now, that we can change the look and feel of this particular widget in the styling section. So look and feel starts with the typography, similar to what we saw in heading and the text editor. Then we click on the pencil icon. We can change the font family, font size, font weight. We can transform it, add style, etc, etc. We'll not discuss this again. Then we can add a shadow to the text, similar to the heading and the text. Then we have an option of changing text color, background type and color, right? Before we start talking about these, you can see before these options there are two more options. One says the normal and the second says the hover. So what does this mean? So let's say I want my button to look like something else. I want a change in color, a change in font style when I hover on this button. So I can set the different text color, different background type and different color of the button for normal and for hover action. I'll just give you a quick example, right? So let's not change the text color. We'll not add a background type. We'll just change the button color. So default color is this gray color. When I click on the hover, I can set a different color. Let's click on it and let's set it to red, right? Now when I hover on the button, you see on hovering the color of the button changes. So all this properties which you are setting for this particular button under the hover section will be visible only when someone hovers on this button. Then you can also add a hover animation. So what does this mean? Let's say we want to button to animate when I hover on it. We can do that. I'll just show you an example. I'll click on the drop down, select the grow option. So when I click on the button, you see it now grows. So you can always make your web pages or a landing page interactive by using such small elements. Then I can add a border to my button if I want to. Right now, okay, let's just for the sake of this tutorial, let's add it. Let's select the border type as solid. Let's set the width of the border as 2 pixels, and let's set the border color as yellow. Okay. Okay, now it's visible. Just to make it more visible, let's increase the width. Okay, now it's more visible. I'll just click on this collapse window, and now you can see how the button looks like on the web page. Right now it does not looks very interesting, but this is just a tutorial. We'll work on the look and feel of our page very much when we start working on the tutorials, right? Oh, sorry, when we start working on the mini projects. Okay, so right now you can see the default background color of the button is gray. We had a yellow background. Then we also added some things for hovering on the button. Let's quickly hover on the button, and now you see the background color of the button is changed. We have a grow animation when someone clicks on the button. Looks great, right? Okay, so then we can also add a border radius. Let's say I want to set the border radius to 40. It will change the border radius of this particular button. I can add a box shadow. I can add a shadow for this button by using this option. Right now I don't want it. Then I can also set the padding of the button, right? By default there is some padding, but if I set it to 0, you'll see the space between the borders and the text just vanishes, right? Now let's say if I want to add some space from between the text and the border, so I'll set the padding to, let's say, 10. Oh, it got 100. Let's say 10, and you see now there is a little bit of space, 10 pixel space between the top of the button and the text, and 10 pixel space between the bottom of the button and the text. I can customize it based on my need. Similarly, when you are building a web page or a landing page later in future, you can change it based on the design. Then using the advanced section, you can add a margin or padding around this particular element. So the difference between this padding and the padding in the style section is padding in the style section talks about padding within the button. However, padding in the advanced section talks about padding around the button, not the outside the button actually, right? So this was a quick brief. We'll not go about other things here in advanced section because it's more or less the same than what we discussed earlier. So this is how to use button in an Elementor.